Welcome to Planet People, a podcast that aims to inspire curiosity and cultivate a deeper connection with the natural world.
We are thrilled to be sharing stories with you that highlight the beauty and importance of protecting our planet's wildlife.
Be sure to follow us on social media and your favorite podcast streaming platform so that you never miss an episode.
Hey, Planet People, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Planet People. Hi, Natalie.
Hey, Coral, and hey, everyone tuning in. If we sound a little low energy, it's because Coral and I are a little under the weather, and I'm tuning in with a broken wrist, unfortunately. But that's not going to stop us from putting out our next episode, which we're really excited to share with you guys today.
Yeah, Nat, how did you break your wrist?
I was snowboarding. So I wasn't even doing anything cool. The answer I should give you is you should see the other guy. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't smash into anyone, thank God. I just fell on my ass on some really hard ice and hyperextended my wrist back. But that's okay because I can still use dictation on my phone to write blogs, and I can still use my voice to podcast. So there are ways around it.
Yeah. Well, it could have been a lot worse. So I'm happy that you just walked away with some fractures instead of like bones out of your skin.
It could have been a lot worse. I'm definitely glad that it wasn't like a joint fracture. It was kind of beneath the joint. So
yeah, good.
All is well. I'm just glad that, it happened in 2025 and not 2026. Left it behind in 2025, and 2026 will be a great year for us. Definitely like a healing journey, especially a year after the LA fires. That was a tough start to 2025. And if you haven't listened to our episode about that, it might be a good time to also tune in and remember those affected. And I'm excited actually to kind of do a recap with a future guest about the LA fires.
Yeah, it's exactly a year ago today. We're recording on January 9th and the fires happened January 7th. But that's a really good point. I've been home and like a little on edge. I think everyone I've talked to is just like slightly on edge.
Especially with the Santa Ana winds and warm weather. That was the recipe that created the fires in the first place, along with there being an arsonist. So
yeah. Luckily, there was a lot of rain right before
there was
Santa Ana's came in this week. So I think that gave a lot of people like peace of mind. It certainly gave me peace of mind that everything is wet. So that's good. Yeah. Before we get into this next episode, I hope you guys enjoyed our last one with Josh Jackson and the book club. This is like something new that we're starting and we're really excited about. And we're featuring different books and different authors that are using their talents to be a planet person. And so we hope you enjoyed Josh Jackson's episode. If you haven't already, go back and listen to that and also pick up his book, The Enduring Wild, and check out his social media and check out his Forgotten Lands project because it's so cool and it just goes right in line with what we're doing here at season 2 on Planet People. And to kick off another exciting episode with Jack Humphrey with the Rewilding Institute, we are talking about jaguars today, which is so cool.
I'm super excited to talk about this apex predator, and their presence in the desert Southwest in North America is alive and semi-well. I wouldn't say great because there's only been 5 cats seen in the last 10 years, but we'll get more into that today and the threats that they're still currently facing. But what a cool episode. We haven't had an episode about a big mammal yet, and this is our opportunity to really share some exciting, fun facts about jaguars and their presence in North America.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that they were in the desert Southwest, and they actually reached out to us, which was so nice. And it was just like, wait, what? For me, I was like, there's jaguars in like the Grand Canyon and the whole desert Southwest. That's so badass. The
Wild West, it prevails even despite the threats that a lot of these species are facing from habitat fragmentation, and especially with the border continuing to be installed throughout the Trump administration. So we'll get a little bit more into that today, because there are actually a lot of exciting current events around jaguars and what rewilding is due to preserve their habitat, and actually some recent sightings of other big cats, of other jaguars in Arizona, which was, I think, released in like late November, December, that there was another sighting. And a little bit about the Rewilding Institute today before we really get into the meat of the interview. I wanted to share their vision and their mission, and something about their founder as well. The Rewilding Institute was founded on one simple but radical idea. And it's the idea that nature needs more than just protection. It needs restoration, it needs connection, and it needs room to breathe. And with the founder, Dave Foreman, pushing forward this rewilding vision, he envisioned a world where gray wolves and grizzly bears were connected from Mexico to Alaska, when pumas reclaimed their land from the east to the west, when salmon and other migratory fish swam freely up and down our continent's rivers, when the oceans were teeming with whales and sharks, and all of these regional and natural patterns of abundance and distribution were very important to Dave, and that's why the Rewilding Institute was founded. And so based on these understandings and imagining a more wild America, the Rewilding Institute mission explores and shares tactics and strategies to advance what is called continental scale conservation and restoration in North America and beyond. So what does that mean, continental scale conservation? We'll get into that a little bit more in the episode, and it's really a great topic to dive into. And the way to focus on that through the Rewilding Institute is the need to focus on large carnivores and protected wildways for their movement, like the jaguar. So they offer bold, scientifically credible, practically achievable, and a hopeful vision for the future of wild nature and human civilization on planet Earth.
And the Rewilding Institute also has a podcast with Jack Humphrey, who we're interviewing today, Rewilding Earth podcast. So please check them out too after listening to this interview.
We hope you guys enjoy the episode and really just kind of understand the idea that rewilding actually is not going backwards. It's really about creating pathways forward for the wild species and ecosystems that have truly been pushed to their margins. And we see that with the jaguar and the ongoing border wall installation. And so that's an important current event to definitely talk about. And people need to know that apex predators, when they return and are allowed to meander through their rivers and reconnect with fragmented landscapes so that wildlife can move and hunt and breed, then we're doing the right work. And by listening to those stories, you can be a part of that work.
We have Jack Humphrey with the Rewilding Institute for a Wilder World. We love that. And he is also the host of the Rewilding Earth podcast. And he has a fun acronym for his actual title at Rewilding, DODO. Jack, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what exactly that stands for?
Stands for Director of Digital Outreach. So when Dave Foreman founded the Rewilding Institute and decided he wanted a website, he, being the world's greatest Luddite, came to me and said, "Do you know anything about websites?" And I said, "Yeah," and that's when everything started. And so I worked with him in the 90s at the Sky Island Alliance, and we worked with the Wildlands Project and others, Michael Soule and Reed Noss and Rurik List and a lot of other people were in attendance for the very first stinky marker and mylar mapping session for the Sky Island what would become the Sky Island Wildlands Network. And that was the first one that got published and the first thing I ever got officially published in for the work there. And then, yeah, that kind of kicked everything off and got a lot of notoriety for the Wildlands Project and then what would be later become the Rewilding Institute in about 2002.
Awesome. You guys have had an epic journey on your hands, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to know a little bit more about the Rewilding Institute's mission now that you've had this long trajectory of growing this mission and all of this backstory with the Sky Islands Alliance. And then in 2002, you go on to start the Rewilding Institute. So what does that mission look like?
Well, it's for the advancement of large continental scale wildways, permeable landscapes for keystone species like predators, like mountain lions, jaguars, wolves, because, Sule figured out really early on, if we protected things that need the most territory, we're going to protect most of everything else. And it's a lot easier to have a program like we do, a Jaguar program, rather than a million other programs of all the other species that you could focus on individually. But if you just focus on what we need for jaguars to become a real part of the southwestern United States, then you're going to help countless bird species, and I mean you're going to help microbes. You're going to help everything. So it is still to advance ideas and strategy around continental scale wildland network designs and advocacy for largely carnivores and connectivity between cores of good habitat where things stand in the way, like I-10 and not friendly places and friendly places. It's just putting together patchworks of protection as much as is possible for species of focus. And that would be, any one of those that I just mentioned. Grizzlies, I don't want to leave them out because grizzly people get real mad. And then the smaller ones, like the smaller cats. We have so many smaller cat species. They're predators too. They have ranges too. Not as big as like a wolf's, but they're important too. Trying to keep everybody off my back if they catch me missing their species.
And what would you say like the different ranges are between those species, just to give our listeners kind of a bird's eye view?
Well, I guess an example would be our advocacy for a Mogollon Wildway, which is the Mogollon Plateau that starts in the Gila Wilderness, our first designated wilderness area in the United States. And at least at one point in the middle of that wilderness area, the furthest place from a road that you can possibly get in the lower 48 states. I don't know if that's still true, but it's still going to be pretty darn far from a road, I hope. So it stretches from there up in a kind of a half moon kind of direction through the Blue Range Mountains and basically ending up in the Grand Canyon. And of course, if you're a jaguar and you're in southern Arizona and you're maybe near Bisbee or someplace like that, you could see a way, you could see a path today, although fraught with many dangers. It wouldn't probably be quite as bad for a jaguar to get to the Grand Canyon as it was for Frodo to get to Modor. But
wow,
pretty bad, pretty bad. If they don't have what we're hoping that we'll have one day is a protected wildway that stretches from Sonora, Mexico, brings jaguars in from the northernmost breeding populations of jaguars we have in the Northern Jaguar Project, and establish here in the United States. But if you want to talk about really, really, really big range, I also talk to people on the podcast about from Rewilding Argentina and Rewilding Chile and Tompkins Conservation Fund about their jaguar breeding programs, and that's all the way in the southern cone. That's as far. And I always like to, ask people when I have them on, so would your jaguars and our jaguars ever touch noses? And they're like, just no. It's too far. But there's a chain of families and groups and dispersers that could conceivably one day, if we really think big and wild enough, go stretch that far. And that's really curvature of the earth size stuff. So it's pretty big. And therefore, if you can do something like that or connect pieces of things that finally, could be comprised of a few smaller or a few networks, you'd be helping countless other plant and animal species along the way.
Yeah,
which are really endangered right now.
Yeah. Well, you really touched on kind of why we are so excited to have you on today is to talk about the Jaguars in the Southwest. This is the first, I feel like this first ever big cat that we've covered, which is
cool. Yeah, we haven't done a big cat episode yet.
Yeah, so this is our first one, all about the Jaguars. So tell us a little bit more about Jaguars, just in general, and why they prefer the Southwest of America in these different landscapes.
They prefer a lot more than just the landscape in the Southwest of the U.S. If you just start going south, you'll start to see similarities with our landscape here in the American Southwest. And I just as an aside, I remember Turtle, our program coordinator for the Jaguar project at the Rewilding Institute, thinking to herself when she got to the Grand Canyon, this is perfect jaguar habitat. So keep that in mind. You know, a lot of people know about the Grand Canyon. A lot of people have been there. Just keep in mind that that is considered by someone who knows a perfect jaguar habitat. She could see them looking out over the edge of the canyon in her mind. So, you know, so traveling south, I mean, you can get all the way down to the Pantanal in South America, which is one of the biggest wetland regions in the world left. And now you're talking about jaguars a lot of the time being up to their ankles and more in water and hunting species. Caiman is really popular down there. You're never going to see a jaguar eating a caiman in southern Arizona, but unless, you know, somebody just happens to have one and drops it on the trail, their lunch or something. And so
I wouldn't put it past Arizona to have something funny like that happen.
I almost said that because I know Arizonans so well that it's like, yeah,
exactly.
There's a guy in Arizona walking around with a caiman in his pocket. You just know.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a wide, but they can make their living in a wide range of habitats. And I've always had questions, you know, this is kind of weird stuff I ask biologists all the time, just to make them mad. It just makes them mad because they think
don't make me mad now, Jack. I'm a biologist.
They think I'm so unserious. You know, I think about, like, you know, what would let's take a jaguar from the Ibera in Argentina, their breeding program, and put them in the Grand Canyon. What would that jaguar think? And then and then everybody's just got to. I'll stop and I will not go. I won't go further until they answer the question. And but it's like, I don't know. It just, they have an innate ability to adapt and be anywhere that and survive anywhere that they find themselves in this vast. I mean, we're talking way more than continental scale. I mean, you're now jamming continents together to make that connection. So it's as big as you can think pretty much on this planet about recovery of a species.
And why is the Southwest such an important hub for jaguars to be rewilded in this part of America?
Because they were here. They belong here.
Exactly.
The lower range of what the biologists, and I don't remember which biologists these were, but they sounded more on the government side, with someone's hand on their shoulder saying, don't get carried away now. Saying that there's 90 to 100, possibility for 90 to 150 jaguars in our Southwest, which I take to mean 500. Anytime I see a number like that, well, I'm like, well, at least let's do 500, because that's obviously lowballing it. But we have the habitat. We have a huge area that is suitable jaguar habitat. And we know that because jaguars were here until we wiped them out. So,
and to our listeners tuning in, who would have thought that there were ever jaguars here? Like, I think most people maybe tuning in had no idea that they were ever even present in the southwestern landscape. So when did they go functionally extinct before we started seeing these more recent sightings?
Well, the first part of the question is basically, we always got word that jaguars would come over the border, but it was always just word. It wasn't until in the 90s when a rancher who is a mountain lion hunting guide was out hunting with his dogs, and his name is Warner Glenn, and I was so happy to be there at the time to just be in the middle of all of this. He took a picture. He shot him with a camera instead of a gun after he saw his dogs go They were up on a ridge, and his dogs went up over a boulder to chase this cat that he wasn't yet sure. He thought it was really weird because it ran for a long time. Mountain lions tree really quickly. And so that was weird. He's like, man, this is probably this mountain lion's got the most stamina of a mountain lion I've ever seen. Then, as he's thinking that, one of his dogs flies up over the boulder and falls back down as if something had swiped it. And a mountain lion is not strong enough to do that, nor brave enough to do that. So typically, so he got closer. His dogs were all safe. Nobody was hurt, even though one flew up in the air. And then he saw the jaguar, and I still have that picture. We were like groupies. We went to his ranch, and he signed autographed pictures and everything. And he just couldn't believe that he had a whole bunch of conservationists in his house because he was the enemy. He hunted mountain lions, and he was wiping out the mountain lion population. We were always running campaigns about that and anti-hunting stuff. And then we became this kind of weird. There was this appreciation. The Jaguar brought two types of people together that had not been anything but at each other's throats for decades. And so there's a history of people knowing that was the first time anybody had ever gotten a picture. And it was absolute proof that all of the things that people had been saying for decades and decades, that Jaguars were here. And I mean, of course, by the time anybody that's alive today was born, the Jaguar had already been effectively wiped out. There's not a lot of people. There were really kind of no people alive except for the hearsay that people took down over the generations. So, but it didn't take too much for biologists and others to look at the land and know that there's jaguars just south of the border and not nearly as healthy in population as they are today, even though 80 is not a huge population and it's around there. But we just knew that this had to be jaguar country because that's jaguar country. And the northern part of Mexico is not all that much different than the southern part of the United States. So it just made sense. But because there were no pictures, the person who tells you pics or it's not real, that's pretty much what the government did for decades. Pics or it's not real, man. We don't know nothing about jaguars. So I just love that the person who provided the proof was not a conservationist or a university. It was somebody from the land who understood the land. And I think it made him a little bit of a conservationist. I think he really cared. He was very deeply affected by that encounter. And he talked about how it affected him when we would go to visit him. So
Wow.
I love that story and how you guys were seemingly almost enemies, it sounds like, and then there's this common ground here and kind of made a bit of a conservationist out of him. That's incredible. And I want to see that picture.
It's upstairs. I'll go grab it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. That's awesome. Cool.
So what are some of the main barriers to jaguar movement now and population recovery in the Southwest?
Well, I don't want to say the wall right off the bat.
I was going to say that would be my first answer.
But that's becoming an insanely, that's coming to a head, really. Like, there's only so much more where jaguars like to come over that hasn't been walled. And the funding and the trucks are rolling, and they're getting ready to go steal all the water from that area to do concrete. And the wall is a problem. The border is a problem before the wall. The border was really heavily militarized way, way, way before somebody said, build the wall. And it had all kinds of other technology that we had come to appreciate and enjoy the fact that it wasn't a wall. Like they had night vision. And then you can tell somebody else got into office and said, you know what's better than night vision? We ought to do stadium lighting all over the place. And the night vision guys are sitting over here with $1 billion in worthless equipment now because we have stadium lights. And I mean, I look back on all of that now and I think it's just cute. It's just a cute problem to have. No big deal. And then we move forward to that. So now it really is, the border itself is fraught with danger, regardless of whether the wall's going across their main highway in yet or not. It's got a lot of attention on it. It shouldn't have. It's a remote place. And I mean, other than a couple of hikers here and there, and in these areas that they want to continue to wall off, there's no mass immigration happening. people would be out of their freaking minds to try to use these routes as the places to cross, and that's borne out in the statistics. But it was a campaign slogan, and at least in that promise, it seems they're living up to it. So there's great groups, Center for Biodiversity, and everybody's down there, and that's really what the border is the front lines of conservation discussion these days because of that. So if it's not the wall, it's the roads, it's the helicopters, it's really got to be quite scary to be a Jaguar thinking about coming north, but not being able to fight your instinct to disperse and find a mate. Like to be torn between that and just go, all right, I'm going to have to head toward whatever that is and just do it, which is what every Jaguar does when it comes into the United States, without question. It can't get here without having to go through some of that stuff already.
Wow, I feel moved by your statement about this because there are no borders in nature. And when we put these borders up and prevent animals from moving through, we're preventing the natural movement of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. And when you can't get anybody to put out a headline other than what the human thing is about immigration and our policies and everything, you can never get people to talk about a headline like, what about like jaguars or something, or the prey species, all of the things that the jaguars are hoping will be there to provide them sustenance along the way, can't get through, can't get past. And I mean, Center has pictures of bears pacing back and forth on the wall, and yeah, it's
oh my God,
it's really hard to have that knowledge and have the rest of the world be completely ignorant of it, because we can't get any publicity whatsoever on a big scale, though. Like in Jordal and Russ McSpadden and those guys, if there is any coverage, it's going to be 90% one of them that provided it, like with their drone footage, and those guys are really heroes. I really respect their work and love that. I had Russ on not too long ago, and it was hard not to fanboy out over him. It's like, to me, that's the celebrity, that's the Michael Jackson of our world, people who can do that kind of work, and it's very, very hard, very difficult. That place is not, you have to be a special kind of person, let alone a Jaguar or anything else, to find yourself down there a lot and just be with that land and let it do to you whatever it's going to do. If it's going to be super, super hot, it's going to be really windy, something wants to bite you all the time, and you got to just be in that environment and love it. And I think I spent enough time down there to know what makes people like that tick, and I get it. And desert rats are a whole different kind of people.
I'm proudly a desert rat right alongside you. I mean, you said it yourself, like whatever this land offers you, it'll bring forth just wide open space, wind, blasting sun, everything wants to, poke you or bite you. And that's the beauty of the land, though. And I think you did a really nice job of explaining what it might be like from a Jaguar's perspective to approach the border and have these blasting night lights down and not enough prey and danger. And that Jaguar goes through the same suffering that a human might go through when they cross the border, if not, death.
Yeah.
So it is interesting how dangerous of a place it is, not just because of what we're doing with our impact there, but just the nature of the land. The desert is an extreme environment. And so he already has to face these daunting tasks of just traveling from territory to territory. He, so to speak, being the Jaguar. But it's so amazing that there is this hope, right, that they can still be rewilded here in the Southwest. That's like, what a story. Yeah.
So I guess I have a follow-up question to that. So how many Jaguars would you say are in our Southwest versus northern Mexico? And have you seen that they've kind of like, do you think that they were like one kind of big group? I don't know what the name of, sorry, I'm not the biologist here, but what is there a name for multiple Jaguars, like a pack or anything like that?
Good question.
There probably is, but they're such solitary creatures that I'm not sure what that would be. We've never we've never had the honor of being able to talk about a pack or pride of jaguars. I mean, we just haven't had the occasion yet. We're going to. Before I go, I want to see whatever dose or more jaguars is called be here in the United States.
Yeah. So how many individuals are here, and what is Rewilding doing to for those efforts? Like, what exactly are you guys up to?
Well, we only know who's here based on the latest camera trail cam data. And we had a sighting. University of Arizona got a sighting on a trail cam late November and did verification and let that news out just last week. And this is the first photographed jaguar in the United States. To give you an idea of what the answer might be as to how many are here, this is the first one photographed in a very long time in the United States. And,
Wow.
and you might say, well, that's because the territory is so big, but we have different groups like Sky Island Alliance, University of Arizona, and all of the others. There's trail cams everywhere. Did you just find it?
I just looked it up online. Literally 6 hours ago, like one.
Oh, let's share your screen. Share your screen.
Rare. Oh my God, this is so exciting. I have goosebumps. I don't think I can I share my screen while I do this?
Yeah, yeah.
I had something I was going to mail out to our list last week when Turtle heard about it, and she said, "You're not mailing about that. We're mailing about the Jaguar."
Rare.
So, yeah,
Oh,
that's the typical headline. People start to dream again, start to say, what if? And yeah, so.
Wow. Do you see my headline? Do you see
It's
my
always a male. We don't have any photographic evidence. They don't know what this one is, but I would lay all of my money on male because males are the dispersers.
Spotted jaguar?
Yeah, that's the actual picture. They have more, but
No way.
yeah, that's it. And he, I'm just gonna say it. He returned to the this watering hole several times, and they were really delighted with the pattern. That he was finding something to stick around for where this was photographed, which I hope I or anyone never knows. At least until we have federal protection, and even then, I wouldn't want to know. I don't want anybody else to know. But
Yeah.
but they stuck around, and so yeah, it's really, really rare. We just have the habitat, and it's a big place, Sonora. They have to disperse because males have to stay away from each other. They get kicked out. Mom gets rid of them at a certain point and says, "You got to go." This is one of those who had to go and found its way up north. And our biggest problem is that in order to have a breeding population, you need a male and a female. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but
I've never heard of it.
it's pretty technical. But yeah, so yeah, that's our big problem, is that everything that's been up here has been a male dispersing, and our big goal is to one day have breeding pairs in the United States, and that's when you can start to say these hopeful headlines on articles like this. That's really what that's pointing to, is there, and that's the big question everybody asks, if a jaguar's here, are they back? And the answer is no, it's a male that's here, and being back to conservation biologists and others is when there's breeding pairs in, an established place. It's not just looking for territory, it has found it. And this is my territory now, so.
Hey, Planet People, we are taking a short break from our interview with Jack to do a quick bird's eye view, which is where we sort of take a break from the interview to give you guys what we call the bird's eye view, a bigger picture of what we're talking about. I know I probably sound like a dork describing this. Like, obviously, you probably know what a bird's eye view is. But anyways, right now, as I'm recording this, the Trump administration is literally dynamiting Arizona's most critical jaguar habitat to construct border walls. Yes, I mean that. Literally, the Washington Post just released a really captivating video, actually a horrific video, I'll say, not just captivating, but of them actually blowing up what is national park lands. That area is managed by the national park that they are currently blowing up to build a border wall. And I feel like this conversation right now is really ripe to talk about migrants and how we treat people and planet and animals in this country, while the border wall is also being blown up to prevent migrants from crossing the border. We have ICE agents killing innocent people in America that aren't even migrants. It doesn't even matter what color, where you're from, whatever it is. We are being targeted by our administration, our people, and our animals. Our natural parks by the border are being blown up and innocent people are being killed. So this is a call to action right now, to listen to this episode and to hear the stories of the animals that cross these borders, the same people that try to cross these borders. Everyone, it is human biology to migrate. We need to allow this natural migration to happen, and we need to get ICE out of our cities ASAP.
100%. I couldn't say it any better than what you just said.
I know. I just feel like you can't talk about the border wall and migrants without also talking about the presence of ICE in the first week of 2026. And poor Renee Good. What a horrible tragedy.
And she's one of many, unfortunately, that ICE has murdered this past year. I mean, it's sick. It's sick.
I would love to just take a moment of silence for her and for the border wall. We will link the video that the Washington Post shared so you can actually see what is going on at the border. And in fact, a Rewilding Institute biologist is actually there with the Washington Post being interviewed. So I find this conversation to be very ripe right now and important to listen to so that we can understand how to better protect these critical habitat areas. So in places like the San Rafael Valley, Sycamore Canyon, these are all places that are basically being blasted apart, and the very landscapes that federal scientists have identified as essential for jaguar recovery in the United States. These are not empty wastelands. We know that after listening and interviewing and sharing the stories about desert life, that these areas are not wastelands. They're just the last remaining pathways connecting jaguars in Arizona to breeding populations in Mexico. And while the first part of this bird's eye view might have seemed grim, there is actually a really exciting silver lining and hope with the recent sighting last month of a new jaguar called Cinco. And he was photographed in these mountains and these landscapes, and is the 5th wildcat documented since 2011. And it's proof that these magnificent animals are still trying to come home. They are still trying to come home. It's upsetting because we want them to come home.
Yeah.
But the administration has waived more than 40 environmental laws, the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, the Wilderness Act, and it's all to fast-track construction of double-layered steel walls, industrial floodlights, and surveillance infrastructure across hundreds of miles of protected habitat. So this isn't just about jaguars. It's about ocelots, black bears, Mexican gray wolves, pronghorns, hundreds of species of migratory birds, and not to mention the most important thing of all, people that are trying to escape for a better life, for a better opportunity. That's what makes America great. It's our wildlife and migrants and citizens and non-citizens. It's all of us. And so really, bombing these borders is the opposite of rewilding. It's severing arteries of an entire landscape for people and wildlife to pass through. So today, in the rest of this episode, we're talking about what's at stake, what rewilding really means in practice, and how we're seeing examples of this in other places internationally, including in Patagonia, where we talk a lot more about the other project, rewilding project there with pumas, something that Jack's very passionate about, and we had fun talking to him about that. And really why we're fighting for these connected landscapes and how it's so much more than just any single species. Because when we wall off the wild, we don't just lose jaguars. We lose the possibility of a wilder, more resilient future. Let's get into it.
Made me teary-eyed.
I spoke from the heart.
It's just upsetting.
It is upsetting. It's not fair. Like, it's really hard, first of all, to survive and let alone help other species try to survive when we're up against, like, some really evil people right now.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm grateful to be in California, because I feel like it's a safe haven. But that doesn't make it better for everyone else in the country, especially not in Minneapolis right now.
We just have to keep fighting.
We just have to stay hopeful. And that's why I love when I hear success stories. Like when I saw that Cinco was featured in the news like a couple months ago, I was so excited. Like I didn't even know about Jaguars yet until I moved to California. And that's so cool. Like they're trying to come home. We just have to let them.
But this is hopeful, and it's always good when it happens. I mean, people get very excited about it. It brings up the Jaguar conversation again. The Jaguar conversation can get lost in wolf. Like, if you could say what America's favorite species is among the predators, by and large, you'd have to admit that it's the wolf. Like we, as a country, know more about wolves than a lot of other things. I don't know why that's over grizzly bear stuff, but wolves are just the darlings of the conservation, big charismatic megafauna stage, and jaguars tend to slip out of, because I think probably people don't know that they're supposed to be here. I think that people are like, oh, well, I don't know why that thing came up from Mexico, but I hope it's ridiculous, something like that, because they think it's supposed to be in a jungle. They think it's supposed to be. And they don't know that it can be anywhere it wants to be. Like, there's probably not a habitat, as long as it's not snow. But then I have questions, too, about that. If they hunt up high and get caught in a snowstorm, I don't think it would terribly affect them much. They're very, very, very tough. Very, very tough. And
why do you think that is? Are they're just extremely adaptable, or have you guys seen that there's some sort of like genetic makeup that allows them to be that way?
I think all predators have to be on the range of adaptability right at the very top for all of them, because they have a hard job. Prey species have to find food and graze and all of that, and they have to stay alive and be alert. So their whole job is to make sure they can hear as soon as possible any alerts that say there's a predator in the area, and then protect the babies and all of that kind of stuff. And then a predator's thing is, how do I get this meal without breaking my jaw, or by being kicked by an elk or whatever, and living to live another day, to eat another day, and they're very opportunistic. They're very high on the intelligence scale. They're very, very curious, and really nothing escapes their attention. The director of the Jaguar movie, I was just talking to him, and he was like, they have some of the best footage of jaguars scratching and checking out trees. They love palm trees. So a lot of our pictures are that jaguar that looks like she's smiling, and it's just a palm tree, and she's just digging her claws in it. They love the feeling of palm bark a lot. Like, they can't go over one without scratching it. He said they are so programmed to avoid cameras. He said it is incredibly hard. We have some of the most accomplished trail camera people in the world, photographers, trying to help us get this footage, which I think this footage in that particular film, and we can give it to you so everybody can get the link to it. It's really, really good. It's got to be the most jaguar footage, non-zoo jaguar footage I've ever seen, for sure. And I bet it's one of the best in terms of anything in the world that we've ever gotten in one documentary. That much footage. He said that it was hard. It took months and months and months and months and months just to get a picture of one scratching that. He said there was one camera trap where they should have walked by, that they had walked by. The trackers and everybody said this is the perfect spot. This is their highway. And as soon as they put a camera there, you could see it going off to the sides and up over a rock and taking a hard way around, because no matter what they tried to do, they could not disguise the fact that there was a camera there, and the Jaguar knew it and would not be photographed. It was so difficult.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like that that physics question of whether you observe it's a wave or a particle. I think when you observe a Jaguar, it tries to turn into a wave right off the bat, and then it'll turn back into a particle when it's safely out of the camera view. That's my unscientific take on it.
I wonder why.
They are masters of seclusion and intrigue and mystery, and that's the way they want it. That's part of their makeup. That's how they are. They would rather never see a human. Yeah. It's kind of sad to have something that cares so little about you. But, we care a lot about Jaguars. I cannot say that they feel at all remotely the same about us. We wouldn't have any other way. Cats, right? It's just cats. They're just bigger. You just need a bigger box.
Can I ask a stupid question?
No stupid questions.
Are panthers considered in the Jaguar family? Or are they considered in the puma family?
No, pumas and jaguars are different enough, and the ranges. So like a puma, and so if you've got this is all the same thing: puma, catamount, mountain lion, and then some really colloquial northeastern Adirondacks type names for them, and they're all basically the same thing. But you could also ask the same thing about a leopard in Africa and jaguars, and those are all three different enough. In terms of power and size and their geography, because some jaguars are bigger and more powerful in areas that they can afford to be, where the food is plentiful and nutritious enough, and we've all seen pictures of healthy, thick-looking mountain lions and also pretty skinny, hungry ones. But in terms of species and everything, those things are separate enough that they wouldn't be. Pumas are in Florida, so you have, I don't know why in Florida that everyone's decided that they're called pumas, but because they're mountain lions. But they have all different traits, and they're all based on where they hang out. So like in the Pantanal, and jaguars are going to act a lot different than up here around the Grand Canyon, just because of the environment that they find themselves in, the hunting that's available, hunting a caiman. Like if you take a jaguar from the or northern Sonora and take them somewhere where their only food source is a caiman, they're going to be really confused. They're also going to have a different, slightly different shapes and sizes depending on the kind of food that they get. So
panthers are not the same then as jaguars.
I don't know, Natalie, how would you answer that?
So
let me ask my conservation biologist.
They're all under the same big cat family, right? They're just different. It's like when you think of like the phylogenetic tree with all the different species on one side, and then it branches off into all of the subspecies. Well, all big cats are under the umbrella of the cat family in the animal kingdom. So I don't know if that answers your question, but they are different by being, a subspecies of the cat world, so to speak.
They're all on the same tree.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean some of them are remotely the same. You cannot even begin to compare an ocelot to much of anything else, because it's like that looks like it could have just walked right out of somebody's house. It's exotic, of course, and everything, but it's bigger than a lot of house cats. But there's just a really rich world. I was talking to Zafir, and he does the Indus fishing cat in Pakistan. And if you think it's hard to do conservation in the United States, go somewhere that has no environmental laws at all, that recognize at all that any of the cats, 7 cat species, including that angry cat, the what's that one called? Palace cat. the one that everybody takes pictures of and makes memes out of because this face is just permanently mad. I don't think they're mean at all. I think they just can't help the way their face looks. But in Pakistan, they've got 7 cats they can focus on, 7 different species. They're all small cats. They used to have tigers, and they wiped those out. The big ones, people around the world always wipe out the big ones. So that would have been 8. And I can't even name all the rest of them. The Indus fishing cat he's from the Indus Fishing Cat Project. And so I've always just pictured that Dave Foreman, whose favorite animal of all was the smaller cats, would have just really enjoyed the discussion that we're having right now. Because he's like, cats, this is awesome. They're everywhere, and they're so specialized, they're so powerful, they're so intelligent, masters of survival. And it's just really fun to.
There we go.
We're getting geeky now.
Now we're getting geeky. I thought I'd share my screen. So
there you go. You asked. You might regret this, Coral.
I was kind of looking it up on my own too, and I'm wondering if this is going to show up what I was looking at. But before we go into this for our listeners, Natalie just pulled up this very technical chart. And
a phylogenetic family tree of carnivores and cats.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go through it or?
Well, I just want to say I was looking up I was looking it up on the side too, and I'm seeing, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I'm seeing that someone here is saying a panther is defined by its color variant, and so it has relation to like in Asia and Africa, a panther is then either a black colored leopard, and then in the Americas, a panther is a black jaguar. Just because black panthers are dark in color doesn't mean that they don't have the spots. They're just harder to see. So I found that very interesting, but go ahead and explain.
No, that is interesting. I think that hit the nail on the head with answering your own question.
Well, let's see this chart. Go through it with us.
I just wanted to backtrack what I was saying to make sure that, I was correctly describing the phylogenetic tree, because it's been 8 years since I was an undergrad. So I'm a little rusty on the animal kingdom tree. But yeah, you start with the kingdom, phylum, class, and order. So of course the kingdom is animal, the phylum is chordata because you're studying vertebrates, and then class is mammalia for mammals. And then you get more into it, dogs versus cats. So that's when you get down to the order, and that's carnivora, so you're studying carnivores. And then Filioforma is the cat-like, and that's one suborder within those suborders you have the different subspecies, like a mountain lion or a jaguar, so to speak. And then your second suborder for carnivores are your dog-like Canioformia. I think I said that. Canines. So anyways.
Really always just all through history, the history of science, it always comes down to cats versus dogs.
That's so funny, isn't it?
It goes all the way back. It's one of our most ancient rivalries.
So true.
It's so funny.
I'm sure that one day somebody's going to find a pictogram on an Egyptian tomb sometime that shows one of their cats in a box. If it fit, it'll say something in their language. If it fits, it sits. They had cat memes back then. I know that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
That's what the ancient hieroglyphics are saying.
Yeah.
That actually this is so off topic, but there was a PhD paper that was published that is, are cats water, or are cats actually fluid, like water, because of how they can just seem to fit into anything. Mm-hmm.
And is it a physical feature or a mental feature? Do they just think, therefore they am? Or lots of questions that really need to be answered. I mean, you need several side podcasts. To just, all right, that's a new podcast. We got to get a host for it. Get to the bottom of this cat fluid thing. Right.
That's funny. So what is, going back to
what were we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I like the turn that this took. So what exactly is the Rewilding Institute doing in support of jaguars in our Southwest?
Well, now that we've got turtle, there's a lot more coordination with like Quinculus ojos, which is what we would consider like a buffer. They're providing habitat. They're getting ready to get bison on their land, and they're a critical place in the Southwest where conceivably jaguars could be coming through town, and Northern Jaguar Project, and then we learn the most from and keep up with and report on Tompkins Foundation and Rewilding Argentina and Ibera, the Jaguar breeding program, which is kind of misleading because everybody says Jaguars, but they also are doing blue macaws, and they have a killer giant river otter reintroduction where they're right in the middle of it right now. These giant river otters all have their little harnesses on with their tracking collars, and they're allowed out, but they're, as far as I know, they're still coming in and out of the enclosure, just like going out and being wild and then coming back, and because there's a lot of good food here. But eventually that's going to be, they're going to be out there. And so there's a lot going on down there. Tompkins has really done some amazing stuff, singular in the world, for breeding programs and bringing animals back. Jaguars being the flagship, but certainly not the only thing. And part of our job is just to let people know about that. We built this megaphone, the podcast and their website, and we want people to know how this stuff works in the rest of the world and how it could work in our world. And it's a little embarrassing that the whole thing originated here, and there's other places that are just lucky enough to be making more of a big deal out of rewilding than we have. And a lot of that's because we have such regulations. It's really, really hard. Everything seems to want to take a decade or more. It starts at a decade and then goes into 20 years. And so it's just more difficult here. And we're learning how to get around that. And we're inspired by Tompkins and Rewilding Argentina and everybody, regardless of, because they have their hardships too. They have to convince all these people, these farmers and everyone around them, that jaguars are cool. They're going to bring tourist dollars. Your farming dollars aren't stretching as far as they used to anyway. So, but that all sounds good on paper. You still got to walk up to someone's house and say, "Hey, man, you're going to be cool if jaguars come through here," And I imagine the initial reaction is no. I mean, what? What do you? And then you have to start that whole.
It's a hell no for me.
Yeah. So. But they've done that. That's the only reason that the Jaguar, you can't have a breeding program unless you have a place to put what you have bred. And Jaguars need, well, we've talked a lot about that. They need a lot of territory, like a lot. So, and that's what they ran into down there. They're like, man, we're doing really good with this breeding program. We have to branch off and have another breeding program up to the northwest of here just because we got all these jaguars. We're swimming in jaguars. And we have such goals. But those goals now have turned into their, I'm going to mess up the name, but their river project, which is a giant on the Pantanal, and it's Brazil, and it's 3 different countries. It's huge, and it follows this massive, huge river watershed that makes up the Pantanal and everything. The Jaguar Rivers Project, or initiative. And that's their wildland network design. They have a map for it and everything. It's a whole coalition. It's all spearheaded by Tompkins and others. And it's a big, bold, grand vision. And that's one of the things when I was talking to Chris Tompkins on the podcast, she just kept hammering home, man, you got to just do it. You got to figure out a way to do it and do it. You need a couple jaguars. I'll meet you at the border. We'll get you some jaguars. These are going to eat caiman a lot, so you're going to have to get them, train them to eat other things up here. But she's not halfway kidding about that, actually. She would drive the truck and drive it all the way. She'd fly the plane, whatever. Do you need to, maybe we should parachute them out of a plane. That's been done with beavers before. But I mean, she's just like, it just has to happen. And you can tell that kind of resolve is what's behind the success of Chile, Patagonia, Argentina, everything that they've done, the national park system that they established down there, millions and millions and millions of acres, all due to their obsession with just go. Doug Tompkins, just launch it, figure it out later, don't worry too much about it. And here we kind of wring our hands. It's like, well, what would Fish and Wildlife say? Well, what would this agency say? And, and then we got to get through all of their regulations and everything else. And so we're a little behind in the way that we think about how aggressively to bring something back that should be here anyway. And there are a lot more barriers against that than there are for that. For a particular reason. There's a lot of people who anticipated that if we saw a jaguar here in the 90s, we're going to want jaguars. And guess what? That's exactly all we've been talking about ever since the 90s when they took that picture, when Warner Glenn did. So they were right. That's people's imaginations get really excited. When you lit up and you saw that article about the jaguar from last week, Natalie, that's a common, that is the reaction when people see that. I expect a few ranchers did the same thing. Like, wow. Because a lot of them are like, I just want my land to be what it's supposed to be, And well, maybe not a lot of them. Definitely not enough of them. But there are good ranchers out there that are not afraid of the big bad wolf or the jaguar or anything else. And they want their land to be whole again.
Right.
I really like those ranchers.
Well, it's really great what Rewild is doing to help support these Jaguar efforts. And it's cool that you guys are taking so much inspiration from Doug and Chris Tompkins. And what they're doing down in Patagonia is very inspiring. And while it may feel like the Southwest isn't quite up to what they're doing down there, it's great that you guys are trying to get past all of these permits and federal regulations that make it so complicated. I mean, it's awesome that we can still see headlines like this. I mean, that's still a step in the right direction, and that certainly gives me hope. And that's something that we like to talk a lot about on the podcast too, is what kind of stories, conservation success stories in particular, can give us hope and really leave our listeners like hopeful, really. That's the word that I'm going to stick with, and excited for what's next. And I think this Jaguar story is really a great flagship story for the Southwest and bringing attention to the desert landscape as a whole, along with other species that we've talked about in the season, like the desert tortoise, which is critically endangered. We hope to get a few other mammal experts on, maybe bighorn sheep one day, or some other cool icons of the desert. But I love that you mentioned earlier just how they've been overlooked, because the wolf is oftentimes the predator that people in North America hone in on. And why it's not the grizzly bear, I don't know. That also piqued my interest that you said that. So anyways, I'm loving this conversation and everything you've had to say. Coral, how do we want to kind of look forward and share ways that our listeners can get involved? And Jack, if there's any other short stories or things you want to share about what we can do to support Jaguar efforts?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, obviously we have our number of challenges here in America, and especially more so in the next couple years. Is there anything that's giving you hope on our front of things that you've seen on the back end, maybe for Jaguars and all of your efforts?
I love the support. I love the awareness. It's been a big campaign over, decades for the center and rewilding and everybody that's involved with Jaguars in any way, to set it up so that last week could be such a big deal. But even so, Natalie just saw it for the first time tonight. So we have a ways to go, because we don't have the kind of attention that we should have when something like that happens. I mean, it should be, I would say, if I was going to get some money from Netflix to make a movie, it would look like Wakanda celebrating the return of the Jaguar. Like, the whole country would be partying with pride, And we're not there yet, and we don't need to go that far. We don't have to have hope. We just need a critical mass of people starting in the Southwest, very, very important, with connections to everyone else who's a little bit antsy about this talk about Jaguars coming back. And that's a long program. That's not because of the government or anything. That's just cultural stuff. That's people telling Little Red Riding Hood stories to their kids about Jaguars, whatever those might be. And the depiction, Disney has so much to do with how everybody perceives everything in this country. As kids, you start off with these weird things that are biologically not correct at all, about, big cats, and they're always the bad guy. And, that could be, sadly, the entire education that someone has about cats and what they think about cats. Anyway.
Well, I work in the animation industry, actually, with a lot of Disney vets, and that is one of my dreams, is to direct an environmental movie that paints predators in maybe a better light, because I do know that is a big thing from Disney.
Well, and to their credit, there are a lot of stories where it's very clear that humans are the worst and the most dangerous thing to fear. In any wild scenario, it's always the human. I mean, I bet you even hippos are like, there's a human. I mean, yeah, we could totally kill them if we wanted to, and we've killed about 7 of them last week, but still, we don't like being near humans. It's pretty clear that's why we eat you. So, you don't taste good or anything, but yeah, we're the most dangerous thing. And there's a lot of stories, a lot of screenplays, a lot of activity around that shows that, wildlife has so much infinitely more to fear from us than we have from any type of wildlife, even what we consider the most dangerous predators. Unless you're ignorant to the fact that you shouldn't step on a rattlesnake, then, yeah, that's pretty dangerous.
So we like to do this thing on the show, freak or force, with whatever animal we're talking about. Are they a freak of nature or a force of nature? What do you think about the jaguar?
Force.
Force of nature, for sure.
Yeah. I think those birds that David Attenborough in the rainforest, those ones with the really crazy displays, and they're just like nuts. The males will just do the craziest stuff to attract females. I think those are freaks.
Birds of paradise.
Yeah. The one that fell in love with David Attenborough. I think he was actually doing a mating dance for David Attenborough. So, yeah, but definitely any of the predators, of course, always a force.
Yeah.
I mean, they have so much talk about this. I mean, seriously, I could do the same thing with beavers, but this is not a beaver show. I have to remind myself, don't talk about beavers.
I love beavers.
Elk look the way they do because of wolves. Elk didn't just become elk. They don't have the athleticism and the strength and the instincts and the look of them. The way that they're shaped is all because of wolves. So when I think of a force of nature, it's just that predators are the force. They're the driving force of how everything else looks and operates. The other one is a story that I never get tired of people talking about or bringing up. It's Yellowstone, and completely rejiggering the way rivers through Yellowstone went because they affected the populations. The mountain lions went back up to their latitude, and everybody and the coyotes became fearful again. And nobody better sit and just lounge around the water areas, eroding the banks or anything, because the boss is back in town. So, I mean, yeah, force, all caps, force with a couple of exclamation points.
Awesome. Well, how can our listeners get involved with the Rewilding Institute and find you?
Well, we have volunteer information. We do need volunteers. We would really, really dearly love a social media person, as just an example. And you got first dibs here. But we do have a form for people to fill out for any kind of things. There's a lot of stuff with the Jaguar program that will be coming up. Depending on funding, how quickly that'll happen, that could be some pretty fun volunteer stuff. I used to organize the volunteer program at Sky Island Alliance, and I tried to give people the very best time of their lives while they're doing backbreaking work like tearing up roads and
sure.
roads and stuff.
You have to make that stuff fun.
It has to be. They got to eat like kings, and they've got to. And whatever it is that they eat better be there too, and it better be good. And entertainment. I brought in one of the world's greatest trackers, Sue Morse, and she would come in and show people how to track mountain lions and bears and everything else. And
people love that. People love that stuff.
Yeah, and they can't understand at first why it took us all morning to go 2 miles, because everybody's a peak bagger. Everybody's like, let's go up that mountain. And I'm like, this is why we're learning to track. You're going to pass 1,000 interesting things and not even notice it because you want to get up there. So there's volunteer opportunities, and of course, we always need support for the podcast and for the programs. So that's all at rewilding.org. You can find everything there.
Awesome.
I think that we could probably do a lot more than just have podcasts about it. Like we could do
Agreed.
a lot if we had time. There's all kinds of side projects we could turn that kind of thing into.
There's so many things you can do for conservation. And I think telling stories is the first step, because through stories, you can start to inspire that emotive action in people. Mm-hmm. And it's only through stories can you make that emotional connection and bond for people to then want to go and protect that thing, whether it's the jaguar or just general nature interest. It's like, you can't protect what you don't know about. We say that all the time, Planet People. And so that's why people need to know. And the first step is education. And you can educate in all kinds of ways. And I think stories are really becoming more central to marketing outreach strategies in general. Storytelling as a brand gives the mission behind what we're doing. And that's the mission that we want our audience to connect to. And I think we have a great shared audience here. And I hope everyone tuning in loved what we had to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how we rediscover things that have been true for most of human history. And the only way we could convey information around campfires, not microphones, and it was storytelling.
Yes.
That's how people learned and taught their cultures. That's how people learned and taught things like how to provide and hunter and gathering and all of that. And so for us, I do that all the time. I'm like, man, this is really great. This storytelling stuff's really working. Well, it should. Because it's the only thing we've done for tens of thousands of years. You know, all we're doing is gathering back around another different kind of campfire and telling stories that are inspiring other people and makes them wonder about the world and everything in it. And
absolutely,
I take it probably a little more seriously just because I've been in that business for a long time. But I've
science communication
I see it work. Yeah, it works. It really has a profound impact on people.
Yes.
I mean, one of the reasons that I have resisted video is not because it's so much harder to do what you guys do, to pay attention to a video thing and that, so I commend you for that. I've stayed away from that just because, as I described to someone else, I can't remember who I was talking to, I like to take away one of the senses. I want there to be no possibility of you being distracted by all five. And the one that I take away, which is convenient because it also is just... it's harder to do, is video. They have to use their own imagination. They cannot be fed pictures I think will tell the story better than the ones in their own heads. And even if those are wrong and the picture I would have shown was the correct way to show a horny toad or whatever, I want theirs to be all messed up. You know, I want it to look like a triceratops in their head. I would rather that because they're using their brains. There's an imprint that's being made psychologically with people that doesn't easily fade.
It's their imagination coming into play without using that visual cue and that visual sense. And that's why stories, all you need is audio. They didn't have pictures to show you when we were looking around a campfire. It's just verbal word of mouth. And now we just started living in an era where that word of mouth can be spread to the masses. And it's just reaching those people, right? It's like, yes, the education is great, but then if it's just going out into the void, you know, it's hard to reach people in this day and age. Whereas before you could just gather around with your tribe of 120 people, sit outside and look at the stars and talk about whatever you probably hunted that day or gathered. Right? Yeah. But no, I think it's great. This is our own little campfire right here, and lots of stories to be shared. So thanks again. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jack, for your time today and giving all of our listeners and even us an idea of the Rewilding Institute and all the amazing work that you guys do with the Jaguars. It's so cool, and I'm so happy that we got to cover a big cat today. It's awesome. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jack. Appreciate you coming on the show. That was a great conversation. Coral, you covered it. Thank you so much.
Well, it was so fun interviewing Jack. He's a character, and we had so much fun and a lot of laughs with him. We did get a little serious in our bird's eye view, and me and Natalie are fresh off recording our bird's eye view. So, yeah, some anxiety into action. Natalie, I need you to take it away because I'm sick and I'm not feeling great and hopeful. So I think I need some hopeful energy from you if you have any.
Hopeful energy is always there when I start talking about things that are important to me. And what's important to me right now is that we do source this anxiety into action, because there is some definitely looming like climate issues on top of obviously the border wall stuff going on, but just in general, like the Trump administration just pulled out of like this huge climate treaty, and that scares me. So like, don't become apathetic, really. That's the best thing I can say. Is like, don't become apathetic or scared, and remember what you're fighting for. Spend time in nature, spend time listening to our stories on the show about the people making a difference. Take solace in that every individual can and does make a difference, like Jane Goodall says, and we see that time and time again on the show. We have 40 episodes out, and that's 40 people doing good for the planet. So that gives me solace. And other ways to take action would, again, be supporting the Rewilding Institute. Check out their website. If you're someone who likes conservation writing, I know that they have a place where you can submit opinion pieces. Maybe you're feeling passionate about this and you want to write about it. That helps me a lot. That's how I channel a lot of my anxieties, by writing. And it's a great outlet. And if you're passionate, then I support you doing that. And it's a good best practice. Other ways to take action would be,
I'm going to say self-care, because I think that's what I need right now. Like, I need to honestly like take a step back before I take action. I think that's okay.
Thank you for saying that. We need to rest too. Rest is productive, honey.
And the winter is about rest, and we're not ready for, the rejuvenation of spring.
Speed ahead all time. That's not how nature operates. Be like the bears and hibernate and cuddle up into a book. That's a great call to action. Go read a book. Read The Enduring Wild. Join our book club. It's hard to like imagine fighting against the Trump administration, right? You don't want to do that with your free time. So do something that makes you feel good, because when you feel good, you're probably more likely to give back in a meaningful way. And right now, reading The Enduring Wild is making me feel really good. It's so inspiring. I suggest all of you go read it. I think that's all for anxiety into action, though.
Yeah.
Don't do too much, y'all. Take some rest. I didn't expect to carry that on, but I pulled through.
Yeah. I was like, I'm getting more depressed as we're recording. Fuck.
Oh, shit. Was it too depressing?
I think it got really depressing, but I mean, it's depressing.
Yeah.
Like, this is this depressing.
Like, what's happening is an innocent woman was killed.
Yeah.
And our border walls are being broken up. So it doesn't really seem that hopeful, but the hope is the silver lining of seeing Cinco. And the hope is the biologists at the border walls interviewing and using their freedom of speech. There's freedom of press. There are all of these ways to like not become apathetic, basically.
Yeah.
And so I hope this wasn't too depressing, but it's fucked up. There's no way around it. But I can't say these depressing things without offering some solution. So I love the anxiety into action piece, and I hope you guys benefit from it. And honestly, just talking to people helps too. Like, that's why I love our interviews.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Planet People. We are thrilled to have you as part of our community of wildlifers who care about protecting the planet for future generations to enjoy.
We hope that by listening, you feel inspired to connect with nature and become a steward of the planet by getting involved and taking action with your local community conservation organizations. Until next time, stay positive, Planet People.
This episode was produced by Natalie Jean Sybil, Coral Carson, and Hugh Carr. Directed and edited by Coral Carson. Theme song by Hugh Carr under the artist name Flama. Thank you, team.